Okay, I'm on. Good. All the way. You can hear me? Okay. Dennis can hear me. We're doing well, right? Yeah. Well, good morning, and just appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I've enjoyed visiting with Dennis a couple times here. Coming up and visit last year, and just ask you if I could come up and share some things about Mountain States Children's Home, and I just feel blessed to be here this morning. So let's begin with a word of prayer, and before we begin, Father, we give you praise for the morning to be able to assemble, to be with you in worship, and just praise you for who you are. We're grateful for the love you show us continually, and Father, we're thankful for your church and the members, and we just pray you bless us this morning as we want to give you glory in all things and praise. And thank you for this congregation and their service here in this area. And bless them. Be with me as I share some things about the children's home and the efforts that we do to reach children. We just pray that we can help kids that are being really sucked into Satan's ways and going in the wrong direction because of a lot of the issues and struggles that they go through in their life. And help me to share those things with the congregation here. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, I'm going to share some things about Mountain States Children's Home. But first I want to share some things that I grew up in a little town of Fairview, Montana. It's right on the border of Montana, North Dakota. I don't know if anybody's been there or not, but I'm going to share a story in regards to, my child raising. And my dad was full-blood Norwegian. My mom was full-blood German. And Mom fit the stereotype of German. At least back then, in regards to it was just they're hard workers, very industrious, and Mom was to fit that to a T. Mom was probably more, what you typically think of, probably the main disciplinarian in regards to daily activities, things along that line. I had an older brother who was 3.5 years older than I was, and Dad would be at work, and Mom, just kind of carried through in regards to the discipline that us boys needed, and that's kind of what I'm going to hone in on in regards to discipline. But Mom would even take me. I remember 11 years of age. She would even we went out and hoed sugar beets. I mean, it was just a matter of teaching us a lot of responsibility. But Mom was just always there. Dad was a mechanic and a machinist and a welder, and he taught my brother and I these skills. I still use mechanical skills all the time in regards to doing a lot of my own mechanical work on cars and things. And Mom, if she couldn't handle us, it was always a matter of, she says, okay, wait till Dad comes home. I mean, Dad had a look to kill. Did anybody have a dad like that? If he was called in, you knew you had pushed Mom too far. I mean, it was just a matter of, oops. And it was amazing how I could turn my attitude around and I could just straighten up and do what I needed to do, because all Dad had to do was just walk in the room. And that was kind of like, oh, I know I pushed Mom way too far. And but I remember with my brother, boys. You have two boys together. They like to wrestle a lot. I would always pick a fight with my older brother and get him in a wrestling match, and I would get him in a scissor lock around, and he'd have to say uncle, and that was just really great for me to have one over my older brother, And Mom would always say, "Don't wrestle in the house. You're going to break something." And that was, that happened an awful lot because we were just always, we're boys. We were all boys, but I was. I remember getting a lot of spankings. I don't know if anybody had that. Regards to spankings, it was Mom had her leather strap on the back of the door, ready for, for any correction actions or activity that I needed to have. Well, and my brother too, and we had a little Chihuahua Rat Terrier dog about that high, and we called him Punky. And Punky did not like us to get a spanking. I mean, and I know that that's kind of a questionable thing today in regards to spankings, but so Mom would be spanking us, and Punky would be down there and grabbing the belt so she couldn't give us, a spanking. I mean, it was pretty cool, And I think, I don't know, I was 10 or something like that, and it was time for me to have my spanking, I guess. And Mom went in the bedroom and go get the strap, and the strap was gone. And the first thing she said, "Randy, where's my belt?" I thought, oh no. I'm in trouble for what I already done. Now I'm in trouble because she thinks that I hid the belt, And she looked around all over the house trying to find the belt because, it was just always there on her doorknob. And finally she looked underneath the bed, and underneath the bed that strap was just chewed to pieces, Punky took it under there and just destroyed that belt, And she said, "That dog chewed up my belt, And that's when I first learned what that phrase is, dogs are man's best friend. I never had any more spankings after that. Punky took care of that, But I make light of that. In no way do I ever think my mom and dad ever, abused me by spanking me or whatever. They discipline me in a lot of different ways. Discipline is a lot broader than just spankings. I mean, there's teaching and training and leading and guiding and things along that line, and they did that. But I remember going to my mom, and I was about 25, and I went up to Mom and I said, "Mom, thank you for raising me the way you did." I even thanked her I said, "Thank you for spanking me." And I remember her just looking to the floor, the ground a little bit, and then she said, "Randy, that was the nicest compliment you could have ever given me." And I think that if we love our kids, we want to discipline them. We want to raise them. We want to train them. We want them to make good decisions and choices in their life for the rest of their life. And like I said, I never felt like Mom, Dad abused me in any way. I think that their intent was to raise me to be responsible, and you appreciate that. I want to share some things taken from Hebrews 12. It talks about discipline. And I'm using this verse because what I want to say is today, children who come into the children's home are not disciplined. And I'm not talking about spanking. I'm just talking about there's not somebody there willing to take them through life and help them and teach them responsibility. And they're struggling. They're struggling. Let's read Hebrews 12, verse 1. Oops, I don't think there we go. I'll get back to that. There just a minute here. Hebrews 12, chapter 1, it says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles us, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and the perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart." This is referring back to chapter 11 in regards to, here it kind of paints this picture that we're in this big amphitheater and we're surrounded by all, the audience in there, but it's really, that they're rooting us on, but it's the heroes of the past, and it's their testimony that is really encouraging us to run the race. And it's heroes like, if you go back to chapter 11, and it's Abel and Enoch and Abraham and Isaac and Joseph and Moses. And you get the idea in regards to these are heroes of the Bible from the past, that they endured hardships and lived a life that we can look at, and it's a testimony to us for what kind of life they lived. And then, ultimately it comes down to, Jesus in regards to the life that he led, and for us, and he is the ultimate example that we should follow. Now I'm going to read a little bit farther here in regards to 4 through 11. And I'd like to have some interaction in regards to thinking of your upbringing, you're being raised with your parents, and how does this fit in with maybe some of your life? And I'd like some feedback. So in your struggle against sin, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood, and you have forgotten the word of encouragement that addresses you as sons. My sons, do not make light of the Lord's discipline, and do not lose heart when he rebukes you, because the Lord disciplines those he loves, and he punishes everyone he accepts as a son. Endure hardship as discipline. God is testing you as sons. For what son is not disciplined by his father? If you are not disciplined, then and everyone undergoes discipline, then you are illegitimate children and not true sons. Moreover, we have all had human fathers who disciplined us, and we respected them for it. How much more should we submit to the Father of our spirits and live? Our fathers disciplined us for a little while as they thought best, but God disciplines us for our good, that we may share in his holiness. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. What are some thoughts when you hear that passage, how it applies to you, maybe how you were raised? Let me throw this out. Who does God discipline? Those that he loves. You know, I mean, that just kind of gives me chill bumps when I think of that, because, you know, when you go through hardship or whatever, you can use that to help us to grow in our faith, because those hardships challenge us to do that, don't they? And but we know we're loved if the Lord disciplines us, and that's encouraging. If you want to look at it that way, some people probably turn it around and just are mad at God, but boy, if you look at it in the right way in regards to what God is trying to instill in us, he sets boundaries, he sets limits, he sets guidelines, and there's some discipline that goes along with that, and it's for our good, for our righteousness. What else? What happens if we're not disciplined according to this passage? It says that it's what? We're illegitimate? You know, what's illegitimate mean? Think about that. You know, you look up the definition is you don't belong. You know, if you don't have a parent there that's disciplining you, then you don't belong. And I remember growing up, and there was no doubt who owned me. I mean, there was no doubt. My mom and my dad's eyes were on me all the time. I mean, other parents who weren't looking at me like that they did, but they were mindful of what I was doing and making sure that I was choosing to do what was right and what was good. But I knew I belonged. And how important it is for us to know that we belong. We belong to our parents, but we also belong to God. And how important that is, and there's a security that goes along with that. Let me ask you another question. Is it easier to discipline or not discipline your children? Easier not to? Okay. Everybody agree with that? Okay. Short term, long term? That's kind of a trick question, isn't it? It's just kind of like, well, yeah. I mean, in the short term, it's, go do what you want. You know, the kids can just kind of work on you and just try to push you and manipulate you to get what they want. And, you know, okay, they're out of my hair. I'm gone. They're gone. But in the long term, you're really training them to be more disobedient, aren't you? And you're training them not to be responsible. And so long term, it costs you more. Yes, Ginger?
I think we are seeing the results of a whole generation of undisciplined children. You know, and I know it's hard, but, you know, I'm proud that when we were raising ours, yes, we were strict. You know, they had hours they had to be in and different things, but I mean, parents today, like you said, they just let them go
Yeah.
all over. And I'm sure when these children come into the children's home, it's a whole difficult thing trying to start them on the path that's right.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a new path. I mean, they're not used to this. They're used to getting their way and whatever, because children who come from broken homes, they've learned to split their parents, and therefore the breakdown in regards to the discipline and what they really need, I mean, they're parentless, really, even if you have parents alive. And that's a lot of what we see.
Manipulate.
Pardon?
That was a good word, manipulate.
They do.
Children
Oh.
do.
I knew if I wanted something, I knew who to go to. Was it my dad or was it my mom? I think all kids are very sharp on that. They know if they want something, they're going to go to the weakest link, and that's, it's just kind of human nature in that sense, yeah. But it is, I think that, it's better to raise your children at a young age to respect authority, to take responsibility, and there's far less problems later on in life. And I think, Ginger, just exactly what you said, I see our society is really breaking down in the sense of a lot of children not growing up, understanding that. And it applies to so many principles in life, when they get older. I mean, it's you establish that core identity at a young age that carries on through the rest of their life. How many of you had a parent say when they were disciplining you, said, this hurts me more than it hurts you? How many had ever had a parent say that, Yeah, as a kid, you probably think, yeah, sure, how is this hurting you? It's just, it's just kind of some interesting things there that to consider. But, one of the things I take a look at, and I love this here, it says, no discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. And I see that. I see kids who are coming in that have not had good home situations. At first, they don't like the structure that we have, but after about 3-4 weeks, you can see a peace that comes about them. And there's a joy that starts coming about because there's security. When there's structure and they know the boundaries, they're secure. And where before they've come from homes where there's not much structure, and it's really difficult for them. And we had some construction workers building a building for us, and the superintendent of it, he says, I saw that one kid come in, he was angry, you could just see him he says, but after about 3 weeks, I saw how he had changed and how he started smiling and he started interacting and just feeling at peace in regards to the righteousness, choosing to do what's right, doing what was good. And that's what all kids need. And I guess what I want to share in regards to this is what we do at the children's home a lot, because the children have not, most all of the children come from broken homes. And then we get into all kinds of situations of abuse and things like that. This is Nick and Abby Mears. I was the director for nearly 30 years. And I stepped down 2 years ago. Nick and Abby are the new executive directors. Nick worked under me for 10 years. And there was a succession plan for us to make that transition. And it's moved very smoothly, and Nick is doing a great job. Actually, Nick was the director of Camp Yamhill for 5 years. So he has roots here in the Northwest, and but he's doing a great job. One of the things that I want to take a look at, we're located in Longmont, Colorado. There are about 35 Brotherhood homes in the nation, and a lot of people don't realize that. And but we're the farthest north, we're the one closest to you, but there's nothing north of us, there's nothing west of us. You think of where Colorado is, there used to be 2 in California. They both closed as far as residential programs. But, we're pretty unique. The state of Colorado looks upon us and kind of like, you guys just do things differently. We don't take state dollars. We don't take state kids. We run on donations, and it allows us to stay with our Christian values in regards to helping children. We want to be a referral source to churches. We want you to know about who we are, how we help kids, so that if you know of any children, we want to be an extension to the church, and we want to be able to help children if you have any needs or know of any needs. So one of the things we want to do. Here's a picture in regards to, where Colorado is. I went south to try to raise support, but all the other churches are supporting. They're giving to 3-4 children's homes, and you go to Texas because there's 9 children's homes in Texas, 3 in New Mexico, 3 in Oklahoma, 1 in Kansas, and the rest of them are all through the Bible Belt. So they asked me to become the director. I went there as a therapist to work with kids and families, and they asked me after a year to become the director. So I never did want to be a director. I never wanted to public speak, and I didn't want to be a fundraiser. So somehow God has ways of making things work. Don't tell the Lord, no, I don't want to do this, because He will put you to work if you put yourself out there. But anyway, we network more toward the north and the northwest, and that's why we come up here in this direction. And God has really been good, and just churches have been really good to us in allowing us to do what we do, helping kids without government support. We love that. Most of the kids come from troubled family situations. Most all come from divorce situations. They're abandonment. Sometimes we have parents that just want to abandon their kids, and they find a home for them, and they go off and do their own thing. Neglect is a big one in regards to, there's just a lot of neglect in regards to the children who come into our care. Abuse, we have seen about every type of abuse that you can about imagine. And it's just heartbreaking, but you can just imagine what type of abuses that might come about. Most come from single parents. Most of the times it's a single mom crying out, "Can you help my child? I don't know what to do." Most of our kids come in like from 11 to 14. That's the age, is when they hit puberty. Before that, there are more black and white thinkers. If they're 7 or 8 year old, they're just concrete thinkers. And then you hit puberty and the brain changes, and they're more abstract thinkers. Why can't I run with my own friends? Why can't I have freedom? It just goes on and on. And the single parent mom usually is then they try to be a buddy, and that doesn't work. We have to teach them to be a parent, set limits, set guidelines for them. They will still love you. In fact, they'll love you more if you set those guidelines versus if you don't. So all of them are privately placed, and that's just probably one of the things that we want to help you to know what we're doing. They're all wounded. They're angry. They feel cheated because they have come from a broken home. It leaves a lot of emotional wounds, and I'll talk about that in the sermon time. But a lot of traumatic issues. Just placement at the children's home is traumatic for the child. So there's a lot of trust issues that the children, when they come in, they have their wall up because that's what they're used to. That they've learned how to survive in a lot of different ways. So one of the things that we did, worked with a consultant here, and what do we do that's different compared to other agencies, especially state agencies and things like that. And as we discussed it, this one guy that we were working with, he says, "You keep saying you have a deeper level of care." And, sometimes you just take things for granted, but then he just said, "You keep saying that." So we got to thinking about that. Yeah, we do. We do provide a different level of care. And we went to Luke 2:52, where, it says that Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and favor with God and man. And I'll go through this in regards to educationally, we help them. In regards to wisdom, that comes along with the wisdom. Physically, in regards to how we take care of kids, I'll show you pictures of that. And spiritually, that's the backbone of why we do what we do. Taking them to church and getting them involved in youth activities, and we want to bring them to Christ. Socially, in regards to helping them to work through the anger that they have, because a lot of them have a lot of anger because of the dysfunction that's in their families. So you can take a look at wisdom. We built this building here in 2008. When I came there, we sent the kids I was back in 92, we'd send them to public school, and within 2 days they were like magnets to other kids that were not doing well. We fought it. We'd send them to school, and they were, skipping class, whatever. "How you doing?" "Well, I'm doing good." Well, then we get the grades, and there were D's and F's. And we tried to monitor that, but they were afraid to do work. They were afraid to do their work because they were so far behind that they knew they were going to fail. So they built their identity of running around with other kids that were doing the same thing. We started the on-ground school in 98. My wife, this is my wife, she started the on-ground school. She was a teacher And I said, we need to start the on-ground school because we need to pull them out of the public school so that we can have a more impact upon them. And so this is some of the classes, the kids, and it's just interesting. My wife would come home and she said, I'm just amazed at these kids. Some of these kids have been suspended for school. They've been they've been running the wrong group and whatever. She said they come in, and after about 3 weeks, they're just working their tails off doing their homework. I mean, it's just, you cut out all that negative peer group, that peer influence, and it's amazing. That's really what's really taken a lot of our kids down today, because that negative peer group, especially if they come from a broken home situation. We wanted to measure what are we doing? Are we doing good in the academic realm there? So we started doing some testing, and we do a pre-test, a post-test, and we did a 12-year study, and we wanted to find out how much improvement they were making. And we found out they were making 3.7 grade levels in academic achievement in 1 year, which changed their whole outlook on life from thinking that they're stupid and dumb and they can't do this to, I've had kids say, Randy, I got an A. I've never had an A before. I mean, they're excited, but they didn't believe that they could do that, and they didn't, so they would hang with the wrong group. High school graduation, as far as the nation, is about 82%. In the state of Colorado, if you're in the Colorado foster care system, 24% graduate from high school. All of the kids, if they come into our home, and if they stay, if they are more of a longer term type child, we've had 100% that graduate with an accredited degree, which gives them, that's a huge step for them to get off into life. Stature, we hire members of the Church of Christ. We currently looking for a set of house parents. If you know of anybody needs, would like to work with kids. But these are some of the houses that we have a family model of care. We have hire husband and wife teams, and we support the house parents in regards to helping work with kids. Each house has about 6 children, has 6 children placed in them, but then house parents sometimes can have 2 of their own. So we can have 8 to 11 kids in a cottage based upon the house parents' children, that come. This is about 7 years ago, we built this house, and we started it like a habitat house. We just got volunteers from the community, and community has just been so good, and I'll share more about that. When I came to work for the children's home in '92, people said, well, we know you're out there, but we don't know anything about you. Well, we worked at we got into with the chamber. We had kids help out, set up tables and stuff for chamber events, and the chamber just started asking all kinds of questions about us, and they wanted to learn about us. I know that you do a lot of things with the community, and you know what the impact that has. And so that's what triggered this in regards to getting community involved in building this. In fact, the Christian Church stepped up and they donated $500,000 toward the building of this house. But then there's a lot of other volunteers and suppliers that helped out. I think I took a picture. I didn't have a picture there. Anyway, what I did before we sealed up the walls, it had 2x4 walls, we had all the kids go in and write scriptures and prayers on all of the walls before the sheetrock went up. And it was the coolest thing, because they spent two hours going around writing this stuff all over. And we just said, we want these to be prayers for the kids that come into this home. And it was just really a neat experience. One of the girls that came in, you walk in the front door, what she wrote, she said, the first step is the hardest, walking into the house. And I just thought, wow. You can imagine coming to the children's home, how hard that is, that first step in regards to getting help. You give up your friends, you give up your whatever family that you may have, and you face that you have to deal with certain things. And she later became baptized and was able to go back home to her family. But it was just neat to see that. Yes?
So, having adopted a couple of kids kind of in that situation ourselves.
Uh-huh.
Do you have flight risks with the kids that are placed there against the will?
Not very often. We screen. I mean, they have to have some willingness to come to the home. But I would say we've kind of The screening process really helped us to do that. Some things like that, we're real cautious in regards to if a child is from the Longmont. From Longmont, our city, we're 3 miles out of town because they have their support group. So it's real easy for them to run to other friends and their support group. But we don't have too much of that. We might have one a year that gets, angry and whatever, and, we're not a lockup, so they can, so we just kind of follow them, and, usually we get them back. And, if it's a repeated flight risk, then we would probably say it's just too risky to do that, and we'd have to dismiss for that reason. Maybe find another place that might be more secure. Right now, we're getting anywhere from 5 to 6 calls a day in regards to people seeking placement for kids. And so that kind of turns into about 2,000 that we'll probably have calls this year. In 2019, we had 1,000 calls. It's getting worse, is what Ginger was saying in regards to just we're seeing an increase in regards to people needing help. We have a CrossFit team, we had CrossFit trainers come out and work with our kids. And this is, Dustin handles this, but it's, we use this kind of in a therapeutic way where he uses that, it's a challenge to help them to work through the physical challenges, but then he sits down afterward and helps them to process in regards to life challenges and tying God into that. And how can you grow from the physical example to spiritual examples in regards to applying, how you can work through issues. So this is inside of the gym in regards to some of the activities. This is, the gym again. We have asked about mission trip in regards to, we have youth that come in. The boys will stay up on the stage area, and the girls will stay, this goes into the school. And we have about 4 mission trips a year that they come in, stay for a week, and we kind of have a template they just plug in, and they help around campus. Great for our kids, but it's great for the mission trips that come through here and helping us. You look at this picture here. When we built this building, we didn't have the funding to build building or to buy basketball goals, and so we contacted the Denver Nuggets Foundation and asked, in regards to, would this be a good thing to apply for your foundation to buy basketball goals for a gym? And they said, oh, this would be great. We're getting rid of our practice game goals. Would you like those? Oh, yeah, we like them. These are the real things. So they delivered them all out there, and they set them up, and they said, well, make sure you tell all the kids that Michael Jordan and Shaq and all those guys have dunked on these hoops. So it was pretty cool, Now, well, a number of years ago, now it's been about 12 years or so, 13 years, and kids come in and you tell them, yeah, Michael Jordan, Shaq dunked on these hoops, and they'll look at you and they'll say, who are they? It's kind of it takes that fun, away, when you, but God has blessed us in a lot of different ways. In favor with God, what do we do in regards to, this is the Longmont Church of Christ. We're under the eldership of the Longmont Church. That is, again, the backbone of what we do in regards to, we would be just a secular agency if that was not our focus, and we want to bring them to Christ. So they're involved in youth activities, and when mission trips come, this is where a mission trip came, and we have campfire devotionals and things like that. We encourage that. We want our kids to know about God. Here's just a lot of different activities that mission groups do. Baptisms, we typically would baptize 2/3 to 3/4 of our kids. COVID came and it just shut us down because, church was online, couldn't go to youth activities. And, I think we all experienced it in our own way of how COVID helped. But we're back on track in regards to being able to really, involve kids in spiritual activities and things like that. Favor with man, this is Dustin, our director of professional services. We have 2 counselors that work with the kids. The kids have individual counseling on a weekly basis. We do family counseling as much as we can. If it's a distance, we do it through Skype or other means like that. We do group counseling, just helping the kids to work through the wounds and the issues that they're coming in with. This is Dustin again in regards to group activity. This is one of the things we wanted to find out in regards to, are we making any impact in regards to the counseling that we're providing? And we have this assessment tool that we have the kids fill out, when they first come in. And it measures, these are 16 areas of therapeutic concern: school problems, family problems, depression, self-esteem, personal stress, confused thinking, guilt, father problems, aggression, disturbed thinking, mother problems, friend problems, memory loss, drug use, alcohol use, and suicide. We had them fill out the assessment at the beginning of the time that they came, and then we do it a year later. At the time of placement, you can take it, this should be a year later instead of upon discharge, but at the time of placement, you take and look at, the green is 48% have 10 to 16 areas of therapeutic concern when they come into our placement. If you take a look at a year later, none of them have, that green is totally gone, none of them have 10 to 16 areas of therapeutic concern. When they come in a placement here, we have 47% have 5 to 9 areas of therapeutic concern. That's the red. After a year, you can see where the red has shrunk, and we have 17% that have 5 to 9 areas of therapeutic concern. At the time of placement here, you got 4%, 5% that have 0 to 4 areas of therapeutic concern, and look how large that blue is in regards to, now we have 83% have 0 to 4 areas of therapeutic concern. So we know we're addressing the issues and the struggles that the kids are going through and helping them. That's part of helping them to develop a healthy lifestyle in adult life, because I think we all can identify a lot of people out there have a lot of chips on their shoulder and anger, and we try to help turn that before it destroys their life. So campus, we have church and community involvement. Pratt Management Company built this office building for us. That's a whole nother story in regards to they want to first give carpet and doors, and one thing led to another. And do you mind if we build you a new office building? It's kind of, thank you, Lord. I mean, it was just just a number of steps like that. And I was sitting there thinking, okay, we think this small, but then God just opens up a door, and that has really opened up the community, help us in so many other ways. We have business before hours. I'm part of the chamber. We do business before hours, after hours. We do the business before hours. We provide a breakfast, and we have about 90 to 100 people that come out and they see the campus, and we have the kids interacting with them. And what's really interesting, for the people that we've been doing this for a number of years now, they just know, oh, we love going business before hours, coming out to the home, because they love to see the kids and they love to see what we do. They said this is one of our favorite events, and but when we still get this, but you have people say, can we see one of the cottages? I know what's going on in their mind. It's kind of this connotation of, we're an orphanage from back in the 20s in regards to how we treat kids. And it's just, they go over into cottages, the kids will be talking about their rooms and whatever, and they come back, man, this is a lot different than what I thought it was. It was just, we've changed a lot. We've grown a lot in regards to meeting the needs of the kids. And then they see that we're not only providing food, shelter, and clothing, but we're helping them emotionally and educationally. And this particular event, I had Will. I said, do you mind sharing in regards to what the home did for you? He said, no, I'll be glad to. And he was ready to go home. He was about a week away from going home. We worked it out to where he could go back to live with his father. And he shared about all the things he worked through and his anger and how he helped them. And then he says, and then I became a Christian. He says, I was baptized, and he was just going right along in regards to what we were doing. I said, go for it. Let community know that Christ is the center of what we do. And it really becomes more meaningful when you have a child sharing that rather than me sharing it. And it was pretty cool. Some of the things that as more we got into the community, the more people donated things. And we just started having all kinds of things donated. We started having farm auctions where we just lined stuff up because we had so much stuff. And it grew to 9-hour auctions, and we spent people were spent out. They were tired. At the end of the day, at 9 hours of auction, they were worn out. Habitat was coming in and buying 2 or 3 truckloads of our stuff real cheap and putting it into a thrift store. And then we were going to go to another day of auction because just more stuff kept coming. And that time it became, it was another 9-hour day auction. And I told the board, I says, we need to start a thrift store. Well, a bunch of guys, we don't go to thrift stores. Why do we want to go to a thrift store? I don't go there. And so it was kind of shot down. Well, then we were going to go to the third day of auctions because there's just more stuff coming. And one of the board members said, I think we need to start a thrift store. And we still had some of them say, wow, I don't shop at a thrift store. Why do we want to start a thrift store? Anyway, we started to open up one that was a 4,000 square foot. This is a 12,000 square foot. We had to grow because people just love what we do. And they come up and say, hey, take what you want. Whatever you don't want, we'll take over to Goodwill. I mean, it was just, and we have about 40 volunteers that help us out. That it's a whole different ministry in regards to the people. Volunteers are going through a lot of things. We have people bringing stuff in. They've lost their spouse and they're donating their stuff, and emotionally that is tough, and it just provides opportunity to minister to them. It's just been kind of cool. You can see the store. We had a guy come in, told us, he says, we went into your thrift store, and my wife and I, and she was walking along, and she went, and he said, what are you doing? He said, well, this doesn't smell like a thrift store. So we like to have a good reputation there. Anyway, I do food runs. There's pick up food runs there. We have a car show in regards to Coloradans come out, and I have a lot of people say they do it on our campus. They used to do it in town, but they then required them to have permits, and they had to hire extra police, and they had to hire trash people, and it just started cutting into their profit when they would give it to us. Anyway, we have about 450 people from the community come out and participate in that car show, and our kids get to choose cars and things. So a lot of good things. We have a clay shoot. In fact, that was yesterday. We had a clay shoot tournament. Anybody like to come down and do a clay shoot? We have a gala that we do. That has grown to, we started out about 16 years ago with about 120 people, 75% members of the church. It grew to 528, and 75% were non-members of the church, and 25% were members of the church. And to tell you the truth, the other people, the Church of Christ people are pretty conservative. It's the other people that are really spending $5,000 for a pie that the kids baked. I mean, it was just, community has just been so good, and it's opened up so many different ways. Some of the new developments we started, we bought an apartment complex for kids that graduate from high school, and the state says they cannot be on our campus because they're adults. So they can move into this apartment complex. We have 4, one at Oklahoma Christian and 3 that are going to community college. They stay in these little apartments. They're totally remodeled. Just really a neat bridge. It can be, they can get a job, and we'll work with them for 2 years until they become self-sufficient. We'll help them to go to vocational school or college, but if we've had them for 3-4 years, we want to continue to be a parent and help them and support them until they become self-sufficient. And it's just been a really neat program. And it's a whole nother story in regards to how this apartment complex came about. The neat thing is about it is if we don't have any kids in there, they're rented out by other people. So the money that comes from the rent goes back and helps make that program self-sufficient. And so it helps them where we can help them, to go on with their college. There's another one in regards to when we built the other cottage, Homemade. It was a home builders association. Saw that we were building it. They said, well, we want to build you a cottage. And just all the home builders come together, create this homemade nonprofit. And Lennar Homes oversaw it. They built this house. We moved into it a year and a half ago. And both Lennar Homes and Homemade said, let us know when your next project is. So God has just blessed us in so many different ways, and we have, I mean, there's no doubt that there's a lot of kids that need our help, and we're, so hopefully this kind of helps you. Change cans, I know that we have the change cans back there, this, I'm the change can guy, I guess. We raise about $55,000 through change. And a lot of, I know people are not using as much change, but we're finding a lot more dollar bills, $5 bills. We even find $100 bills coming in. People are just helping, and it's just a vehicle to help out the children's home. So anyway, any questions? That I know my time is up. So I hope this is helpful to understand what we do. And, a lot of times people have a preconception in regards to what a children's home is all about. We do feel like we provide a deeper level of care in really trying to meet the needs of the kids that come into our care. We take kids regardless of ability to pay. If we can serve the child and we have room, we will take the child in. So anyway, thank you for your time. Appreciate it very much, and appreciate your support in helping us. So God bless.